Very good. Mr. Weeks, and then probably I think it's going to be our last question for this set.
Thank you, and I just want to congratulate you and your country on the great reforms that you have put in place. My question will be, how does the Parliament interface with the Prime Minister? And who decides who or how the Prime Minister is elected? Is that from the body itself, or is that an appointment? As well as, how do you interact with the King in regards to various laws? You know, in the United States, the President, which will be our House, he can veto a bill if he doesn't like what's come out of the Congress. Does anyone have veto power in regards to laws that come out of the Parliament here? And what is that interrelationship like with the Prime Minister and the King?
The Prime Minister, when we organize national elections, the party that wins the elections, the King appoints the head of the government, Prime Minister, within the party that wins the elections. So that's the rule. The King appoints the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister should be obligatory in the party that is the party that wins the elections. This is the first rule. The second rule is, when the King appoints the Prime Minister, he doesn't have a government at that time. He has to constitute a government, obtaining the majority of the Parliament. So before starting operating as a Prime Minister, leading a government, he has to come to the Parliament with the ministers and present a program. And then this program should be voted by the majority. And once he obtains the majority of the Parliament, then it starts to be a government. Is it clear? So that's related to His Majesty the King. So the relation in the legislative power is defined in the Constitution. So when we issue a law, the laws comes here. All the laws should come by the Parliament. So it can be started by the Parliament, by a member of the Parliament, as I was saying, or starting by the government. But it cannot be a law before it's voted in this House, the House of Representatives. It can go to the Senate also. It goes obviously always to the Senate. The Senate can change some articles, but it has to come back to this House. And in case of conflict between the two chambers, this law chamber has the last name, the last word. And then the law goes to the King, and he approves this, the law. He can ask, if he doesn't agree with the law, he has a right to ask what is called a second lecture of the law. And it comes back to the, it happens very rarely. It never happens, I don't know if it happens in history, I think it never happens. But formerly he had the right to ask a second lecture, and it can come back to the Parliament. Then it can be rediscussed again and re-voted, and that's all. The King has also the right to open the House, to solve the Parliament. But if he does that, national elections, and it happened in the past. In the past, it happened that the Parliament was dissolved, and we had period without Parliament during years. But in the new Constitution, it's not possible. Because the Prime Minister also can dissolve the Parliament, but if the Parliament is dissolved, either from the King or the Prime Minister, national elections should be held in 2 months period. So we cannot have a long period without Parliament. So these are and to have a good idea about how issues are, you have the King. The King is the head of state, obviously. And the system is a constitutional monarchy, but the executive power is the task of the government, who is related to the elections and to the approval of the Parliament. The Parliament is the legislative power, and we have an independent justice. And in this place, the role of the King is to be the supreme referee of the institutions. He's not acting as executive power. It's like a supreme referee of the institutions. Who manage the affairs is the government. Who controls the government is the parliament, under the head of.
Yes, my question was going to be, given the Parliament's role in diplomacy,
Yes.
what are the prospects for a negotiated resolution between Morocco and the Polisario, and how do you assess U.S. policy towards the Western Sahara?
Let me just give you some information related to this issue. It is a very important issue to us because of as you know, Morocco was under the domination of France during the colonial period. In '56, we started recovering our independence. We recovered independence by parties, not by steps. We could not reobtain our independence at the same time in one step, because we were under the occupation of France and Spain, and Spain was in the north, France in the middle, and Spain in the south, in the Sahara region. And we started recovering our independence beginning by '56. 56, 58, 59, 63 are periods where we reobtained some parts of our territory, and in '75 we obtained back the Sahara region. But at that time we had this Polisario movement, with an independence movement that was created, and now, and because of the issues related to the colony, it's followed by the United Nations. And it is important to know that when Polisario was created, it was created to get the Sahara region independent from Spain, not from Morocco. It's because it was created under the occupancy of Spain. And it is important to understand that when we look for convincing the international community that the Sahara is Moroccan, it is because it is Moroccan, because when it is colonized by Spain, but it was Morocco before Spain come to this place. It's exactly the same as here. Here it was Moroccan, France came, then France came back, and now it is recognized as Morocco. It's exactly the same in the Sahara region, but it was Spain that colonized this region and France. And when Spain came back, the problem is that it was in '75, and we had this movement of Polisario. So related to Polisario, the idea that proposed Morocco is to organize there an autonomy under the sovereignty of Morocco, but with very large prerogatives to have a governmental, independent, a local government, a local parliament, and to make them manage their affairs by themselves. And this is the issue that are being negotiated now under the umbrella of the United Nations. So the issue of Morocco is very simple. This is a territory that was occupied by Spain and that Morocco wants to get back. We obtained it back in '75 with a treaty with Madrid, with Spain. The international community does not recognize today all the Moroccanity of the Sahara. That's why the issue is being discussed in the United Nations. And to solve the problem with the Polisario, we have a political proposal. This proposal is to create this autonomy with very large prerogatives, with a local government, with local parliaments, and to make all these people intervene in the affair in this democratic institution. So if this proposal was accepted, it will solve the problem, and it will authorize people like Polisario to participate to elections, and if they win the elections, they can manage this autonomy under the sovereignty of Morocco. So this proposition is being discussed now. Christopher Ross, the special envoy of the General Secretary of the United Nations, is following these issues. But the issue is also we have to know that, unfortunately, Morocco wants to solve the problem, and we have some difficulties, to be clear, with Algeria, that is supporting Polisario, not, in our opinion, not really to solve the problem, to make them obtain what they want, but also to try to weaken Morocco. So it is quite difficult, because we are in a situation where we have a conflict, we want to find a solution, and the biggest sponsor of the Polisario does not want to find a solution. So that's why the problem is being discussed, and in reality there is not very good faith in some of the actors, and especially what I said, to find really a solution. That's
education. We have discussed income inequality. We've had a brief discussion on many topics that are important to us as members of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yeah, more details, please.
We talked about, specifically we talked about how women are treated in this country. We talked about how the minority party has influence in this country. We as well talked about the amount of illiteracy. We as well talked about some political issues. We talked about trade agreements and how they are affecting people here. We know that they have been good for the United States, but we want to know if they've been good for the people of Morocco. We've talked about a number of issues that we think are important. Now, mind you, this is just our first real meeting of the day, so we've not had a lot of conversations, but we've had some very good conversations.
Yeah, just some idea about your assessment of the series of reforms in Morocco, the latest reforms in terms of women's rights, in terms of political reforms in general.
Well, the President was just talking with us about the new Constitution, which we are so pleased to hear about as well. We are happy to hear that a lot of the reforms were happening before the Arab Spring, that some of these issues were being tackled long before people started to protest in the streets. And so we're excited to hear about that. We talked this morning about the strength of labor unions in your country and how they protect workers. So I think that it is important for us to understand that Morocco was ahead of the curve, not waiting to be forced to reform, but reforming because they knew reform was necessary.
the second last king, so he was opening the parliament. So during the opening, it's like the ceremony. The king comes once a year and he do a statement. But usually we are dressed like this. Sorry?
The boss, he said he is very similar.
Yes. This way,
there is one picture that you have to see, the former presidents, the former speakers, with the actual speaker. I make the commentary because, you know.
we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the parliament. Our institution is 15 years old. It was created in 63.
Excellent.
It was appointed by the king. So this part
This is it.
Oh, very nice. Look up.
John, we got like 2 minutes in here because we're running late. Okay.
What part is this?
Wow.
Yeah, this is.
very few. We have a law that forbids the use of the religion in the politics. So they cannot say that
Hey, Robin, look up.
is PGD, Party of Justice and Development. It's not party of Islam. They cannot act as a party formally saying that you promote a religion. And the religion of the country is Islam, and we have all other religions, but the main religion is Islam, but we have Jews, we have Christians, it is forbidden to use the argument of religion to tell people to vote for you. So their role is a normal party, in brackets, implementing reforms as the other parties.
Looks good. Looks like a brush.
But that's the secret of speed. This is footwear.
هذه الزيارة لها طابع خاص اعتبارا للعلاقات الثنائية ما بين المملكة المغربية والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. أول مرة يأتي إلى المغرب 13 كونغرس ومن وكونغرس مان من هذه المجموعة من بلاك كوكوس مجموعة الأفرو أمريكية. إذا هذه الزيارة تأتي بعد زيارة جلالة الملك في شهر نوفمبر إلى الولايات المتحدة. فكل هذه الأمور يعني تظهر كثافة العلاقات السياسية ما بين الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية والمملكة المغربية، وكذلك الاهتمام بالجانب البرلماني في هذا المجال. أشير إلى أن قمت بزيارة في شهر شتنبر إلى الكونغرس الأمريكي. وقفنا على طبعا الإصلاحات الديمقراطية التي يعرفها بلادنا، تبحثنا كذلك على القضية الوطنية وعلى مغربية الصحراء وعلى الحل الذي اقترحه المغرب التي تحت السيادة المغربية، ويعني أجبنا على كثير من التساؤلات متعلقة بدور البرلمان في مراقبة الحكومة، في علاقته مع الحكومة، في مجال التشريع، في مجال الدبلوماسية البرلمانية. وطبعا نستمر باتصال مع هذه المجموعة المؤثرة داخل الكونغرس الأمريكي.